Good morning, everybody. Welcome back from the Thanksgiving break. And I guess we only have a few more days before we break for the holidays. I'm not going to spend too much preamble, but thank you all for joining us. And I will turn it over to Principal Klein first. He has a short presentation for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then we'll get into some of the Q&A that was both submitted in advance as well as have some time for in person.
All righty, and of course, I'm going to have issues already with my sharing. Do you see that slide? Do you see the TGIF there, Charles? You're muted. Do you see that? You do?
Yes, we see it.
Yes.
Thank you. Well, good morning, everybody. I just wanted to give you a brief update on some of the goings on since we've last spoken. This is specifically some of the work that we're doing to looking forward into cohorts and to getting some of our students back here on campus. So some of our guiding principles we've been working with, great. Why is it doing that? How come it always happens when you start presenting, things just go nuts? Just looking at how can we bring students back who chose the hybrid? That's our first focus area, but before we start looking into more and more students. And so we've been working in collaboration with the gun staff. We had 42 gun and Paly staff members last Monday, and we're going to continue and meet again this coming Monday. And we're including students in that conversation this time as well. And our guiding principles on looking at how we can start building some cohorts to our schools to get our students back on campus as soon as possible. And of course, we want to follow the guidelines from the public health department. We want to have a supportive program that's going to be a benefit for all of our students, looking at protocols that were consistent. And also looking to see from our partners around what are they doing to get some best practice ideas on how they're being successful in getting some cohorts on their campuses. And like I'm doing today is just communicate and offer some transparency in what we're doing. And also to understand that as we've gotten used to, we build plans and things change and we need to adapt. We will be starting looking at the students that first wanted the hybrid model. What we found out, there was a significant number of freshmen compared to seniors. Both schools had approximately around 200 students. I know that we had close to 80 freshmen that signed up, and then and the less number of seniors, I think it was maybe 20 or so. So it was a very, very small amount of seniors. And so we're looking at trying to address the needs of all of our students in this model. There's things that we have no control over, and you can see all of them here, is that we need cohorts of 14 students, and then 2 supervising adults, so a total of 16. And that's going to be also determined on our space, as some classrooms can't hold that many, and so we need to be very specific with our groups. Continue to be flexibility in providing support for students, and we're trying to look beyond the normal categorization of students, whether we just focus on IEP or EL students or students in AVID. We're trying to be inclusive and seeing maybe there's similar classes that these kids take that we can build cohorts off of, or specific programs that they're in. And so we're looking at all different levels of participation in programs for students to determine how we can build some cohorts. Continue to gather information on why students pick the hybrid, so we can glean some thought from that. And counselors have been actually interviewing these students this last week at both schools to get additional information, and as well as looking for input from teachers and from parents on the benefit of the programs that we can bring to our campus. So now some of the needs that we need to establish, and that is we've gathered lots of information. Some things that we want to be able to provide is, a smooth transition between the online learning and bringing kids into a campus, into classrooms. What kind of support does that look like? Is it just merely staff teacher check-ins, or do we have some course specific cohorts that we can build? Again, going back to the idea, looking at similar courses that kids are in, can we build these cohorts based off that? They all have this science class or this math class, so that we could be very specific in that way. And then finally, looking at the resources and what we can do to further develop academic understanding in the coursework that kids are being expected to participate in. Also looking at building and expanding our current PAUSD Plus, what's been successful at all schools, and try to come up with similarities so that we're consistent from building to building. Give some assistance for academic involvement and engagement. So that's a priority in building these cohorts. Also looking at activity time. We are looking, maybe we have cohorts that are here 2 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and using that lunch hour to build in some appropriately safe activities and engagement opportunities for students. And then most importantly, we continue to see our building change as it's getting fitted for this type of activity, classrooms being set up with no more, so there's appropriate 6 feet from desk to desk, and with the appropriate shields around all the desks and things, so including ventilation. So we're continuing to see that happening. I think the biggest area that we have learned that needs to be addressed, and I'm sure that most of you can agree, is the social emotional piece. And when it's all said and done, I believe this is the most important reason why students want to or need to come back to campus is to bring an emphasis back into that particular area of the students' lives. And they are needing the campus experience. And we want to develop an area that we can increase relationships between the students and the certificated staff. They want routines back into their life. Look at spaces that we can open up for students to use. I believe also that we need to increase our level of communication and engagement opportunities for parent education, and develop some more opportunities for all of us to continue to learn how to support our students within the academic day and also outside of the academic day. And simply making connections. And I believe that that's a huge piece. And I think that some of you and some of our students they need to get out of the house, and you're probably hoping for that too. And I totally believe that that's a huge piece as well as we build this. Looking at, and this is more as we look into Mondays as well, is getting some of our classes that are hands-on and that are fun, and seeing what we can do to increase that opportunity. Looking at how we can even include some support for at-home duties and responsibilities. But when it's all said and done, we're seeing a lot of students that just need that human interaction and that support, not only with their peers, but some of their teachers and the staff here at Paly. There's other concerns we need to, we're looking in academically who's struggling, and reaching out to them as well to see if this sort of program experience will increase that side of their experience. Continuing to get student input on campus offerings. We can't do anything unless we have adults certificated and classified staff that are willing to be here and to help us out. And we're working through that and getting some number of adults that are willing to help. The timing is everything, and the minute that we're able to get the green light and or the orange light or red light, whatever it is that we're looking for, the color, we hope that we can transition as quickly as possible. And we know that the biggest factor is that students need that routine and that structure. There's Lots of parent input, and I just brought the three top ideas in terms of cohort building that I gleaned from a most recent survey that I sent out, and that was in line with some of the ideas and thoughts that we had in these cohorts, is to build common classes based upon academic or electives. Even looking at grade level cohorts, and an idea that I haven't thought about is creating some virtual cohorts. That might be something to kind of help get some of our students through until we can actually get onto our campus. And then finally, lots of ideas from parents on activities. This is as we look on to Monday, which is a continued conversation at all secondary schools on what Mondays could look like. And if we're able to get enough momentum to moving to asynchronous, and maybe it's asynchronous just a couple Mondays a month and not every day. And so we sort of have a balance there, and we're still working and planning and gathering that input. So I don't have that decision for you today, but looking at ways to engage students if we're having that flexibility on Monday is we need to get our ninth graders here to familiarize them with this campus. Obviously, everybody is wanting our athletic program and physical conditioning to come back, which I believe will happen once we get back in January. Looking at ways to increase senior activities, maybe labs and hands-on activities to increase on Mondays. Outdoor clubs, get discussion groups happening, study or workout groups, or even including the advisory program on Mondays. So our next step as we continue to gather ideas is to continue to gather the stakeholder input. That's from parents, students, and our staff members. Again, looking for staff members to help us out physically here on campus, looking at creating safe gathering spaces that are appropriate and following the current guidelines. And then also continuous communication on the expectations of safety and our absolute clear expectations need to be communicated so that kids are following it and understand what we are expecting kids to do. That was really, really quick, I understand, but I just wanted to kind of give you a brief update on what has been transpiring since we got back from Thanksgiving break. And there's been a lot of great conversation and a lot of great ideas from all the community members and our students and our staff. And we're going to continue doing that when we get back from winter break as well. Myself and Maida, our school board rep, will continue to do some student focus groups and getting their ideas solicited through a variety of venues so that we can get as many students included in the creative process. So there you go, really quick.
Thank you so much, Brent. That was really great. You hit everything right on my list. No,
I don't think I did. I know that.
No, but so just a couple of really quick questions on this, and I'll figure out in a minute how to manage this conversation. The survey you sent out, it's still open, right? And you're still collecting feedback?
Yeah, and quite honestly, I did not get a lot of parent response on that one.
Okay. But is it still open? Is there some timeline you'd like to put on it in terms of ensuring parents get their comments in?
Yeah, it still is open. I can resend it. I probably won't. I'll send it out either later today or first thing on Monday so I can get more input and just to reshare that survey. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, great. And PTSA ran a survey in parallel, and I'll be sharing those results with you probably over this weekend. So hopefully that will supplement what you've been gathering. I wanted to just clarify one thing I thought I heard about you said we're going to wait until we're in orange or red. Is moving from purple to a safer tier a requirement to do any of the small group sort of cohort type proposals you're exploring?
From what I understand, we're actually still able in the purple to continue developing and implementing. And it doesn't have to, because we already have the PAUSD Plus programs here. So okay. We're able to continue. And It's just, we want to be very, very thoughtful and make sure that everything's all organized and ready to go before we start implementing. We're actually still just trying to identify the students that are wanting to do that, and that's going to take us a little bit.
Okay, and is there, you mentioned the facilities are still in progress in terms of becoming COVID safe and are kind of meeting the standards for ventilation and desks and everything. When will that be done?
I would say it'll be done all by next week, quite honestly. They've been working really hard here. More and more classrooms are getting fitted with the, again, with, space appropriate, and with the student desks with the plexiglass things and stuff. So it's all been going on pretty quickly here.
Okay. I mean, there are questions about timing for some of the things that you've just discussed. So would we be able to anticipate some things rolling out as early as like the first week of school in January?
I don't think it's going to happen that soon, honestly. I would, if you want me to, it's all a guessing game. I can't really give you an exact timeline right now. But I would say better chance that it would happen in February instead of January. I think that we need to come back and get a couple weeks under our belt and make sure clear the air, so to speak, and so that with everybody, lots of traveling and things like that, I want to ensure that we have a safe place.
Okay, I'm going to just follow on this thread of conversation just to get at some of the questions that have come up. There was some legislation that was just introduced by, I don't know what the right title is, Councilman Ting, on December 7th. It's called AB 10, which would mandate public schools to open as of March 1st. And just what are your thoughts on that? Are we going to be ready if we're told that we have to open?
Well, I'm going to start by saying, so it was just on Monday that this was introduced. And
yes.
Quite honestly, the level of conversation that I've had personally as the principal with other administration and district things has been pretty minimal. And so I'm not really prepared to speak on details of this. I think that this also needs to be included in board dialogue and conversation so that we have their direction and their understanding of AB 10. Also does including the growth of our cohorts that possibly is in line with this proposal. So I think that just, we just need to have everybody appropriately, working through the details of that so that we can have clear direction on what that means as an entire district.
So there are some questions in the chat related to your slides. So I guess Simon's referring to it as the new hybrid model. So would students still be doing online classes as well as in-person classes, those that are invited back to campus?
Yeah, I would say this is really taking the online classes into a classroom supported by a certificated teacher and possibly another classified assistant in the classroom. It's and so they're continuing their online classes, the distance learning, but they would be in a classroom on campus and have that support of a teacher, and then be in a room of like students, whether it's a same course that we can kind of gather, kind of like I was talking about earlier. We're still working on the details of that, but it's not going to be the hybrid model that we were promoting earlier.
Okay, got it. So it's more like a POSD++, where you're now grouping students based on their kind of schedule.
Correct.
As much as possible. Okay.
Either their schedule, their program, we struggling academically, struggling attendance. I mean, there's a lot of different factors that are being included in identifying kids to bring to campus.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna kind of flip-flop a little bit. A clarification question: what is a certificated teacher versus a classified teacher?
A teacher, classroom teacher.
Okay, and I think classified staff just means somebody who's
your assistant, a paraeducator.
Great, thank you. I think there's some questions about the SAT in spring. Will this be open to sophomores or any other grade level? Or is it just for juniors?
It is only for juniors.
Okay. Second semester schedules, are those exactly the same? Are there any changes happening, and when will we see those new schedules?
Our assistant principal, Michelle Steingart, is currently working on scheduling. There's minor changes. It's not significant. We might be looking at some class sizes that might be a little smaller, some a little larger, and doing some readjustment, but you're not going to see significant changes. The releasing of the schedule, I'm believing it's going to be January 4th is when we're going to make that public. And so I will communicate the exact time prior to leaving for break.
Okay. Sorry, just making some notes. And for the audience that's with us today, like I'll get through some questions, but if you feel an urgent need to speak up, please unmute yourselves and participate in the conversation. We can be pretty informal today. The next thing was there was a group of comments and feedback and questions really pointing to teachers and counselors not really being very responsive right now. I know it's the end of semester and everybody's very, very busy, but what is an appropriate escalation path when students or families are not getting kind of direct support from either their teachers or their grade level counselors?
Well, if after trying to communicate, email, or trying to reach out to teachers and you're not getting the response, I would look for support first with your grade level assistant principal. And if that doesn't work, and then you would come to me. But I would first try communicating one-on-one with the teacher or the counselor with any specific questions or concerns. And if you're not getting the appropriate response that you feel, again, go to the assistant principal.
Could you just run through which assistant principal is for which grade? I honestly don't know that.
Michelle Steingart is grade 9. Margaret Reynolds is grade 10. Tom Keating is grade 11. And Jerry Berkson is grade 12.
Okay, great. Thank you. I have a feeling that is not information that's on our website or easy to find.
Okay, I'll have Krista look at that for us.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And I think just as part of that commentary, like there were honestly 5 or 6 different people who had expressed some feedback. There really do seem to be some struggles coming up towards the end of the semester. I think some changes kind of in momentum in terms of what people are experiencing as the distance learning experience. I know we were kind of promised by the district to have weekly surveys at the beginning of this whole experience, and that seems to have dropped off. So very early on. And I wonder if there's a way that we can have something a little bit more systematic to bubble up feedback in a safe way, because I know a lot of parents and students are worried about retaliation and they're hesitant to speak directly to teachers.
Okay, I can certainly share that information and look even at building specific ways to.
Okay. I think you talked a lot about the small group activities, so that's great. Definitely some concerns about freshmen and getting them back on campus. And I think, again, you picked that up already and highlighted that. Similarly with seniors, really some emphasis on the seniors, just basic things like getting them back on campus to paint the deck or some, like they really want a social connection more than anything else. So wanted to.
Shara, can I just ask for clarity? So all of the activities and all of the sort of social emotional stuff that Brent, that you talked about in your presentation, am I right in thinking that was all about kids who are going to be invited or have asked to be in the hybrid program? Is that right?
I was kind of not exactly.
Okay.
There's 2 different areas that we're looking at, getting kids on campus. One is the cohorts of students that are struggling in some sort of way that need to be on campus with a supportive adult. There's also everyone else or everybody that I'd love to see on campus with activity-based days. And so that's a huge piece, and that's part of what we continue to talk about at the secondary level in all schools about how can we relook at our Mondays so that we can have some flexibility to bring groups of students, whether it's the the social justice students or this club, so it's two different things I'm speaking about, Simon.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that's good to know, because I think there are a lot of people who have selected distance learning who are thinking, hold on a minute, are you going to just have these kind of small activities for other students, not the distance learning students? So that's good to be clear on.
Yeah. And we also will need to go beyond the students that signed up for hybrid, in my opinion, to see if there's anyone else out there with this clear understanding of what we're going to offer. You want to come and hang out with us too at the campus. So we're looking at ways to open that up and to get some more input from parents and students if they would like to join us.
Right, that was going to be my other question, which is that, if you had chosen distance versus hybrid, if you'd chosen distance back when the model was different, and now the model for hybrid is essentially distance learning from school with a teacher in the class, in the room, whether you're going to offer parents an opportunity to opt for that if they've, because I know in other circumstances there's been a hard, you made your decision, you got to live with it. But then it sounds like it's a little bit more flexible. Is that right?
That's what I'm anticipating, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Especially as we go through the list of students that signed up for hybrid and we talk about what this is that we're offering, it's like, yeah, no, thank you. So we're gonna have to look at more and more students, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, just to build on what Simon was saying and what you were saying, Brent, like it almost feels like you need to find the opportunities, define what that will look like, and then recheck who wants to sign up for it, right?
That's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah, okay. Okay, great. I'm excited about that. I know there were many families who chose distance, but still really crave an in-person experience in some way.
Yeah.
So, a couple of questions. Okay, some comments are coming in fast and furious privately to me. So let me just, I'm gonna just ask a couple of really quick ones. What's the reasoning behind the class time in between finals?
So, like all schools and schools that I've been a principal at, you go to a different schedule for finals. Unfortunately, we cannot do that here because we have shared staff and we need to, between all secondary schools, so we need to maintain the same bell schedule. We also need to ensure that we're providing enough instructional minutes so that we're staying in compliance. So therefore, we cannot change the bell schedule and we have to offer finals within the constraints of the 75-minute period. And so the classes in between, we need to have students at least check in, or there needs to be an asynchronous activity, something that the teacher can say that we did check in with our students and that we offered something, but they're not, so there's only 2 periods a day that have finals, and the other ones, no tests are given. They can't have any introduction of any of the material. It could be like a study session, an asynchronous thing. And so we have less flexibility this year in making a full 2-hour or 90-minute final and having more space in between them. So we're stuck with the schedule that we have.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about looking into kind of the model for distance learning in second semester? I'm sure there's room for improvement. And there have been several suggestions kind of bubbling up from the parent community around timing of assignments. A lot of things seem to be due on Friday at midnight. Other aspects of that. How is that going to be addressed? Is there any ongoing professional development for our teachers, specifically related to improving the distance learning experience?
Well, yeah, of course, there's always opportunities our students, for our teachers to learn more techniques with distance learning. Weekly, we get additional opportunities sent out to us from our professional development department in the district that continues to provide new ideas, new techniques and concepts. And in terms of timing of assessments and if students, parents are feeling like, everything's hitting on the same day. Well, this is good information. Now I have this information. I would just say I would continue to communicate that to me if there's concerns so that I could look at addressing those.
Brenda, is that structure still in place? You had mentioned something at the very beginning of the school year about how different assistant principals were kind of being kind of looking at specific subject areas. I think you were looking at math and other assistant principals had different subject areas they were going to focus on in terms of just keeping an eye on what's going on academically. And I just don't know if, did that ever continue?
Yeah, that's absolutely continued. And that's a huge responsibility of administrators, is to evaluate and supervise all teachers. And so we have divided that by content area. I actually have English.
Oh, okay, sorry.
That's okay. And so we're always in and out of classrooms doing, whether it's just, as we used to call them, walkthroughs, we're trying to get in classrooms as much as possible. It ebbs and flows. Sometimes things have, lots of things are happening. And so, we're trying to balance it all out and get our observations done and feedback to teachers. So that's a constant line of communication. Absolutely.
Can you share who's responsible for kind of the core areas, at least science, math?
Science, Tom Keating with science, Michelle Steingart with math, Jerry Bergson, social studies, VAPA.
Okay, got it.
Margaret Reynolds is, she's working with special ed, world languages.
Anybody for CTE? I think
Tom Keating is.
Okay.
And I'm with English.
Okay, thank you. Let's talk about summer school. Can you tell us what's going on with summer school?
Yeah, well, summer school, Judy Argomento is leading summer school this year. And the idea for summer school is to expand the offerings beyond a typical credit recovery and see what else we can bring onto our campuses. I know for high school, we're hopefully be doing summer school on campus. It'll be at Gunn this year. And we're just trying to look at more opportunities for students to get back into hands-on learning, and also a way to take some classes that might lessen the load for them next year. So we're looking at reestablishing different criteria for summer school and expanding opportunities.
So if a student, I assume part of that is credit recovery. So will that be the only way a student can make up incomplete courses, or will they be able to retake it next year?
I'm like retake it in summer school?
Or retake it starting next fall?
I believe that I'd have to look into the policy on that. I'm not positive about that one, about whether it's credit recovery or retaking. But I do know that for summer school, we're looking at providing that opportunity to retake a class if that's the student's desire.
Okay. And it's just curious, I had heard from Principal Grierson also that the budget for summer school has quadrupled this summer, or this year. Is that in response to the community asking? Like, it just feels like if we get the opportunity to get out of here, why would we want to have our students go through more school, honestly, after such a tough year?
Or some students want to get back into school, and some students want to do art, and some students want, you know, I think it's personal preference, John.
Yeah, no, understood. Okay, definitely.
I don't want to be the principal of summer school, I'll tell you that.
Okay, I was just wondering where the impetus had been coming from, because I honestly have not been hearing that feedback. But immunization, is there anything you can share with us around teacher immunization?
No.
No, okay. And I guess reopening and, you know, this new legislation, you mentioned definitely that we need to see what the district's understanding of this is and what that response will be. But even as you think about bringing more and more students on campus, you know, how are you envisioning this? Is this kind of a growing population over time? Is this kind of a one-time choice that gets made maybe at the beginning of February?
Great question.
Okay.
You know, without having any dialogue, official dialogue about what this means to our school district and our schools, it's really, you know, hard to tell you. I mean, if you're asking me for my personal opinion, I would say that this would be something that would grow over time and not be something that would be a huge change from, you know, like going to the hybrid like we were looking at earlier. So I think we want to make it the least disruptive as possible, whatever that looks like.
When are conversations beginning about, or when will we have a clear idea of what next school year will look like? I think several parents have expressed wanting to know whether we are going to be committed to getting all our healthy teachers back on campus and have as much of an in-person experience as allowed. Otherwise, they're thinking about moving districts. So when would we have clarity, I guess, is the real question.
Does anybody really know that answer? I mean, there's a lot of these answers that really nobody has, I mean, questions that nobody has the answer to. Do I want students here in August? Absolutely. Are we going to try our best to do that? 100%. Are we having conversations already? Yes. I mean, so we're already thinking about that, and we're already having dialogue and anticipation of what it is that we need to do and establish. And like everything else, and everybody that you're all experiencing in your personal and professional life, things are changing, right? Today's different than yesterday. There's going to be new criteria, probably constantly being inundating our worlds, and including our educational world. So we're at the mercy of restrictions and the rate of COVID and the influx, and hopefully the change with the vaccine. So I mean, it's anybody's guess, but guaranteed, from my perspective as the principal at Paly, I'm trying everything in my powers to ensure that we have students here on campus next year. It's been a very, very lonely experience as your principal, and I'm hoping that we're doing it as quickly, but as safe and thoughtful as we can.
Casper asked a question. A first step to reopening and pivoting campus safety in other places has been to bring all teachers back, except those with medical exemptions, to teach from their classes. Is Paly considering that?
That's not a Paly question. That would be a district question, and I haven't heard that come up yet in a topic of conversation.
Okay. You know, I think if we have, we do have a little bit more time. I'll just open it up to the floor and to the audience. If you want to ask a question, feel free to unmute yourself. And
hi, I have a question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know if this was asked earlier, but what are the plans for getting seniors back on campus in some form? I think everybody would agree that they probably have lost out the most, and they're not going to be around next school year. So, and we've been hearing about this since the fall, that their small groups can come back on campus, but nothing has happened even when we were in the orange tier. So what are the plans? Seniors really need some way to connect with campus, with people again. So can you please tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely agree. And unfortunately, you can't bring students back when restrictions don't allow you. And the minute that we can and the planning has occurred, then we will. I know with Greerstone, our ASB activities director has been working tirelessly with the ASB students. And they've had several plans to bring seniors back, but we just can't do it. I guarantee you, the minute we can, we will start bringing seniors back in whatever groups and activities that the students themselves in ASB have created, because I know they have a long list of things that they're dying to do. So as soon as we can, we will start doing that.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I have another question now. The survey with asking about what do we suggest for Mondays, I think maybe, well, I didn't answer it, the survey, because I thought, well, what are some of the choices? Like just giving me a blank slate, I don't even know where to begin. Like, what do you think is best? What are some choices maybe we have to, maybe choices would be better than just a blanket statement. What do you want to do?
That's a great point. I purposely left it as open-ended as possible because I didn't want to restrict or to put any guidelines, but I can certainly, after we meet as Paly and Gun staff on Monday, I'll probably have some better structural components to our ideas so that I can share that out with parents and see what you think about that.
Okay, and then can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
I'm done. I was the one who brought up my concern about next fall because I worked really hard to try to make some changes before that last board meeting, and then I was completely deflated after that. And so part of me has given up for this year with getting any classes in person for this year, but my concern was in not getting teachers back into schools and Zooming from their classrooms, that we're not getting any closer to getting them back thinking they need to be back fully. So if we don't make progress now, I'm concerned we're going to be exactly here in July. And I cannot even fathom the idea of not being in person in August. I cannot.
Neither can I.
So I feel like we need to get closer now. And how do we do that now? Like we need to get it in the teachers' minds that they need to be thinking about getting back into classroom. And then just then the next step would be having some kids in the classroom while they're Zooming, you know?
And hopefully we'll achieve that through bringing our cohorts back and getting those smaller groups and just building that momentum, building that enthusiasm, that excitement to, in-person learning again. In terms of all teachers coming back, there's a memorandum of understanding between the district and the teacher union that doesn't make that an option right now. And so
yeah, that's very unfortunate.
it is.
Brent, can I just follow on that?
Sure.
At elementary school, what I've heard is that the teachers that are back, they love it. They get it. Within the first week, they were like, "Oh yes, this is why we had to do this,"
Yeah.
and they are now thinking, "What is wrong with all those other teachers who didn't want to come back?" But
Yeah.
how do we share those stories? How do we build momentum? It's clearly going to be some level of a grassroots effort, but how do we do that? How do we help you do that? How do we share those positive stories?
And that needs to be our focus, is sharing what we're seeing. I've shared it. I've gone to elementary schools and seen the life at a school, what that looks like, and I've shared what I've seen, and I'm going to continue to do that, and just to get those positive stories out as much as possible. I don't know how other way but to share, continuing to share that with staff and with parents and students for that matter, because it's not just, there's students that are not willing to come here because of safety issues and concerns. So we just need to find those glimmer of hopes and those great stories and start getting it out there. Yeah.
Is there anything we can do more deliberate than that? Like, I don't
Yeah.
know, start a newsletter or something,
I think
success stories, something, I don't know.
Yeah, I've been thinking quite a lot lately in the last few days about what, especially with PTSA can do. And I think there's some ideas relative to this that you and I, or you and the exec board, and I'd love to talk to you all more about that.
Okay, great. Well, PTSA will absolutely do whatever we can to help there. Any other comments?
Yeah, I have a question. I'm a bit concerned about the reality that the new sort of hybrid is not going to actually be offering any teaching. It's going to be basically distance learning with somebody in the room. And my concern is for the kids for whom distance learning is just not working, they're looking at another semester of failing. And so from my perspective, it's like, why even bother? So, you know, either what evidence do you have that having kids do distance learning from school really makes a difference? Or I'm thinking, what if you just, what if you make some different options? How about saying to kids, okay, take your summer in this, take the next semester off as your summer, and then go back to school in the summer, where we're going to have in person, and we're going to get, you're not going to have the range of class options that you would have had, but you will have a teacher sitting in front of you doing at least, say, math, English, history, and a science or something. I mean, some basics. But I think what I worry about is that you're setting a subset of your kids up to fail next semester. But I mean, who have failed this semester. And that just, it might be that you have no other option. I mean, maybe those kids, you just cannot reach them because there is no other option. But I think, given that, is it worth something more radical, for those kids? Not for all kids. There are some kids who are doing great in distance learning, but I'm worried about kids who have failed this semester and who are basically looking to fail again.
Well, I would say that there's success with students that are currently in the PAUSD plus by simply showing up to a classroom with a quiet space and a supportive adult in the room. I see it expanded. I disagree. There will be a certificated teacher in the room that will be helping instruction. It's not a person that's just going to sit there and do nothing. That person will be working with students, and we're hoping that we build these cohorts based off student need. If they're struggling in math, and I'm hoping to get a math teacher in the room that will be there. So, and we're talking a lot about unknowns and things that have never been done before. And we just need to continue trying and hopefully we'll find the right mix of, student to teacher ratio of programs. I don't know what more to tell you, Simon. We're trying to, we're building the plane and flying at the same time right now.
Oh, sure. But I think, well, I mean, my impression is that there are kids in PAUSD plus who are actually not getting that kind of, it isn't working for them. They're not, as far as I'm aware. So, I mean, maybe that's a practical issue of having the wrong person in the room with the kids, or just, I don't know who's in charge of that. But
it's perfect. It's revisions that we need to make, absolutely. And
yeah,
but there has been success. So I don't know all about the failures you're talking about, because I disagree with that. There's students that are actually doing better because of their experience so far.
Well, that's good. Okay. Well, yeah, I don't know. I'd be curious to. I mean, do you have any data? Do you have anyone reporting back on how that's going?
Yeah, I can. Jerry Bergson, who's been running that program, I can certainly get some information from him.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I think not only PhD plus, but just across the board, I personally am getting a lot of texts and emails and phone calls with feedback that people really don't know where and how to share. So even if it was just one more survey about distance learning with some opportunity for, I think, families to provide feedback in a safe way, without sort of fear of, what this might mean to their teacher, to their student, from a particular teacher would be really appreciated by our community. I think there's stuff that's not getting said yet, and bubbled up to the people who need to hear it. So anything else from the community? Otherwise, we can actually end a little early. Okay, some more comments. Grades are not a reflection of how kids are actually doing. They're struggling mentally. I mean, feel free to unmute and speak up. Anybody?
I just want to say that,
Go ahead.
I work at a different district, and we might not be 100% happy with how PAUSD is moving, but they're definitely moving a lot more forward than other districts. The fact that I'm hearing that physically we can be ready by the end of next week is huge. There are other districts that have barely started. I'm not happy with how the hybrid is going to move forward, but I do appreciate that the certificated person you're going to put in there is, I guess you can say the expert in that subject matter, right? Like math. I'm assuming you're going to have someone that has taught algebra, geometry, algebra 2 for those kids that when they're doing their online class, and if they don't know how to solve a problem, they can raise their hand and the teacher will come and help them solve their problem. It's not ideal. It's not what I expected, but it's better than what we have right now. But I like I said, I'm hearing a lot of criticisms, but be aware, we are moving a lot further than other districts. So thank you for all the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
But hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Michelle.
Okay, so I want to tack on to what Karina just said, or Karine. Principal, can you confirm that that is the case? When you say certificated teachers, will it be a math teacher that's taught calculus or physics in that classroom?
That is my goal. I have not yet been able to determine who exactly these teachers are. We need, as I talked about earlier, we're working on identifying who that is. I'm hoping that we can identify the kids that are struggling in specific areas and get a like teacher in that content area to be there in the room with the kids.
So does that mean that it is definitely not a Paly teacher, an existing Paly teacher? You're having to find other teachers?
No, that's not what I said. It will be a Paly teacher.
Okay, it definitely will be a Paly teacher. Okay.
Correct.
So,
okay.
I mean, wouldn't that imply then that teacher would be giving up their other courses that they're teaching currently?
Not necessarily. There's,
okay.
You're getting into the weeds with me, guys.
Okay.
We're working on the details still. Okay.
Okay, got it. Let's see. There's a discussion going on in the chat about vaccines that people are answering themselves. So that's great. Are teachers being told that using pass instead of a grade is an option if families want this? Is there any discussion basically of credit, no credit rather than actual letter grades?
That hasn't been a discussion that I've initiated.
Okay. Any other comments from the community? Feel free to unmute yourself and speak up. We want to hear from you. Yep.
I asked a question about pass. It is in the Paly course guidelines that is an option.
Yeah, you have an option. Individual students have options to do pass. But it's not been a discussion. That's what I thought the question was. Has it been a discussion school-wide about that? It hasn't, but it's always been an option for students to choose pass or no pass.
I guess I'm just wondering if teachers know about that.
I would assume they do, since it's been a past practice and policy for a while here at Paly.
But you might be careful, because if it's by individual student or teacher, which is not like in the semester, in the spring semester where everybody got a CR, not CR. A pass right now, if it's in a college prep class, colleges are not going to accept that pass.
Absolutely. It knocks you off the A to G path.
Correct.
Correct. That's understanding.
If you're having, there's questions about that, I would speak directly to your student's counselor if you want more details about that sort of choice and option.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, just a quick question. Sorry that you've probably answered this, but I understand that second semester schedules will be released before January 4th, but I'm wondering whether all of the schedules will be reviewed in order to accommodate the potential for kids to go back, some of the kids to go back for hybrid. Of course, we're hoping to keep, the same teacher pairing.
Yeah, we will not be moving to the hybrid model at all, so we're not changing schedules.
Okay, so it's closed, no hybrid for spring semester at all.
Correct. We're just talking about bringing cohorts of students back.
Got it. Sorry. Thanks.
No worries.
And the only schedule change, I think, would be where we have semester level electives and, a student would be starting a new elective or something.
There'll be elective changes, and like I spoke about earlier, there might be some readjustments of some classes because of size or lack thereof, and so we're looking at balancing everything out right now.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, anything else? Otherwise, I'll thank you all for participating and joining us this morning. Good luck.
I actually have
Go ahead, Roddy.
Comment. Yep. So this is going back to mental health of students and how it may or may not be reflected in grades. And I do want to emphasize again that grades really don't reflect what's going on with the child. This is Palo Alto, the kids are driven, the parents are on their heads constantly, and they're somehow managing to keep that up. But if you're having a child who's having a meltdown at home saying, I can't do it, I can't log on one more day, I can't do this anymore, that's not reflected in the grades. And that's not even reflected in the survey, the wellness survey that was done, because one, it was not anonymous. And I don't think kids are really, they're diffident about sharing exactly what they may be going through. So I really want to emphasize that I think teachers and everybody else does not really know what's going on. And they need help. They need to be back in some form.
Yeah, I think not only do they need to be back, I think even at this moment in time as kind of things close out for the semester, I wish there was a way that we could just improve the awareness even amongst our staff and our teachers so that they have just better empathy and understand, I am hearing story after story of students freezing on tests or, just having just a real struggle getting past, one mishap or one missed assignment. A lot of students just incomplete work and assignments and wanting some more time and a lack of responsiveness from teachers. They try, email after email and not getting responses for several days. So I'm just hearing different feedback from a lot of different parents about these different issues. And I think it kind of points back to an overall level of building stress, like in our community, both in our students as well as our families. So, and I know our teachers are struggling too, but I think we just better understanding of one another is a starting point, at least.
Well, I want to thank you. In fact, maybe put the video on so I don't look so mysterious. I want to thank you for putting this together and giving us an opportunity to air out some grievances or some accolades. But this is my first pandemic, so I'm not sure if there's any sort of a playbook for any of us, but I think that there's a general frustration. I'd like to be eating at Evia this evening, but they won't take my reservations. There's simply our family has just accepted this as it is the reality. Nobody likes this. I don't like wearing a mask at Safeway, but I will. And just let's go forward. This is not a teacher issue. This is not an administration screwing us up. This is simply a pandemic, and we're all trying to follow the rules of public health. So I encourage us as parents and members of this society just to say, look, nobody's happy, and let's move forward and hope for the best, because we're all motivated for the same reasons to get back to normal, whatever that is. I don't like working in this environment. This is my reality today. And again, thank you for the opportunity to share out.
Thanks,
Thank you. Thank you for saying that, Jeremy, because I think that, I mean, we could sit and blame lots of different people and point fingers, and there's nowhere to point because there's no one to blame. And this is something that we're all in the same spot with. And the caveat is that I'm responsible for your children here and their education and their well-being, and we're trying to do it as best we can. And I do see teachers that are working beyond their capacity, and I think that we have one more week, and our break will be a well thought out break. I think we all need that. And I do know that there's areas of concern, there's areas of growth, there's areas that we can do better. And we're trying our best, and I'm trying my best to listen to you and to adapt and to listen to directives and protocols and all those sorts of things, and be an expert at COVID and SB10. And we can only do as much as we can do through our limits that we have. But I would encourage you, if you have specific concerns, and if there's an unresponsiveness that you're seeing with teacher or anybody, or for me for that matter, for not getting back to a question, please reach out again and let me know, because I don't know what I don't know. And I would appreciate anything or any information that you all feel is important for me to know as a principal, to communicate it to me quickly in an email, and I'll do my best to address. I've become an expert at email responses lately, and so I just want to say that, and I thank you for everybody, for your concerns, for your comments, for your questions, and we're learning together. Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Principal Klein. So I'll close it out. You know, this is definitely one year that I want to put in the rear view mirror, and you know, put this in hindsight. But thank you all very much. This community has been really terrific in terms of you know, giving us room to have an open discussion and think through the different options. I apologize for any missteps I've done over the last several months in terms of trying to represent all of us. And I just wish everybody a lot of joy, a lot of rest over the coming weeks. And I really look forward to a 2021 that will be positive and moving forward and trending upwards in every way. So thank you all very much. Brent, I don't know if you wanted to say anything.
Well, do you have a question?
No, I just wanted to reiterate that even in higher education, what I'm seeing are individuals, these are people in college that are also having a very hard time staying connected and engaged. So it's pervasive because we are social beings. And I just wanted to, again, thank you very much, Principal and Charu, for your leadership in putting these opportunities for us to speak. So, and thank you, Jeremy, for being so succinct in capturing some of our feelings.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, Charu, thank you for arranging this today. And I think it's beneficial that we keep dialogue and keep communicating. And I've never met so much with parents and PTA, but I'm getting to enjoy it more and more. So, and I got your back, and I know that y'all want the best experience and a safe one, and same with me. And I'm a mostly impatient person, and but I've learned to accept that patience is a virtue and we need to maintain that, and all of us do. And we're all at our wits' end. I absolutely agree. I am too. And I'm just trying my best to be thoughtful and to listen and to continue to adapt. So again, have a great holiday and rest, and whatever your new holiday will look like, because I'm sure it's different than all the others, make the best of it. Okay.
Thank you all.